Good morning, YouTube. It is 10 a.m. in the great state of Texas. However, it was around 1:30 when we started this project yesterday on Saturday. And it is surprisingly warm in the state of Texas right now. It is 51 degrees. But if you live in West Texas and you live out here, it was super duper windy. So what are we doing today? We are doing another grab bag project. So you guys saw last week's project. You saw where I tried to use a grab bag piece of wood and it fell apart and I had to use another piece of wood. And I appreciate everybody trying to tell me what piece of wood that was, and we still haven't solved that mystery. But I know for sure that the project that we're doing today is Purple Heart. And I really love Purple Heart because it's a really cool looking wood once you get it all worked up. So I learned from my mistakes last week, and we are going to do pilot holes before we actually screw down the faceplate. So here I am thinking that this pencil was going to show up on this dark piece of wood. So there I am going through my little jar of pens and realizing, nope, that wasn't going to work. So that wasn't going to work either. Had a drill bit. So what I ended up doing was taking a screw and just making some holes there with a hammer where this is going to come in. And this worked a lot better than just going ahead and drilling into it. However, the other thing is when you're going to use a drill, it might be beneficial to use a full battery. So I had to stop that, come back, get a whole new battery, and screw in some pilot holes. And this really went a lot better than the previous project. And I know I've said it like 10 times already. But this really was beneficial. And I need to do this for all my future projects as well. And here I am using some shorter screws and not using those larger, longer screws that I typically will use. So wasn't too sure that this was going to work, but surprisingly it actually worked. So got the faceplate on, and you can see how small this is. This is a 4x4x2 piece of Purple Heart here, and it's gonna be an interesting project. So I've worked with Purple Heart in the past, and it's a beautiful wood. It's probably one of the most beautiful pieces of wood that I have had the pleasure of working with. However, it is a very hard wood, and you can definitely feel it on the chisels, and it's hard to turn down when you're making these projects, especially when you start off with a square. So typically I had to start and stop the lathe a little bit. Really took my time with this because I was afraid that the faceplate was going to vibrate off and I was going to have all kinds of issues. But the pilot hole thing definitely worked. I took all the comments that I've gotten from previous projects and really have learned to take your time, drill those pilot holes, because that was very beneficial for this one. So all we're doing here is just trying to make it into a nice cylindrical shape. And the bad thing about using these smaller pieces of wood is that it's not a lot of material to work with. So instead of just doing a bowl like we did last week, obviously, as you guys saw by the thumbnail, we're putting a lid on this, and we're trying to just take down the least amount of material as possible, and going to try to salvage as much as possible as well. So the square carbide tool did a majority of the work. Once I rounded it down to pretty much where I wanted it, the square carbide tool just ate through it. You can see here just eating through it pretty good, but it's still a lot of resistance on the chisels itself. Now we're just going to make a mortise for this side of it, because we're going to end up making a couple of mortises on this project, just so that we can make the actual lid portion of it. And I love doing the grab bags. However, I probably need to get larger blanks for the next one. So here we are just sizing up the chuck, and you can already see the cool grain coming through there. And I probably could have gone a little bit more shallow on the mortise, but I really was kind of unsure of where I wanted to go. So here I am using the parting tool to separate from the bowl to the lid. This part literally took me 5 minutes, and you can see all that smoke brewing from the actual parting tool itself. I definitely had a hard time doing this, and like I said, Purple Heart is a very hard and dense wood. So in spite of how sharp this parting tool was, in spite of how much time I took just really trying to get this separated, it was smoking the entire time, and I was kind of worried that it was going to set the actual wood chips on fire. So you can see the actual purple coming out and just the smoldering and the burnt ash that was there as well. But overall, was really surprised that that went as well as it did. So this is actually the bowl portion here that you're seeing, and now all we're going to do is just shape everything up to the way that we want, make a mortise, flip it, and then that'll go into the chuck. And it's not a whole lot of wood here, but it's going to turn out okay. But definitely going to use a larger piece for the next one. But as you guys can tell by my voice, thank you for everybody that was telling me to get well. I was literally sick for nearly a month, but now I'm totally over that. Was able to get into the workshop and make something cool. So my voice has definitely come back. The energy's definitely back. It's just that time of year where, get sick a little bit. But here we are, sizing everything up. Everything's going pretty smooth. Surprisingly, this part went really well. Not a whole lot of resistance on the chisels. Once I figured out that using the smaller carbide tool was a little bit better than using the larger round head carbide tool. So I had actually stripped some of these screws by the time we got to this part here, and I was kind of worried that they weren't going to come out, but they actually did. But not a whole lot of material here, and there I am sizing up the lid and just how big that was going to be. But now we're just doing some of the finer work here, but I was kind of bummed that there wasn't a whole lot of material here to work with. Excuse me, in spite of how much better I feel, there's still that dry, hacky cough that I can't get rid of. So pardon me for that. But here I am just trying to gauge how deep I could go on this without breaking through the mortise. And I started and stopped it a couple of different times, being kind of unsure of where I was. But I actually started and stopped it and was kind of hesitant to come back and do it again. But surprisingly, I did not go through the mortise, and I probably could have gotten a little bit deeper than I did, but I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't, too deep. And here I am just taking it off the lathe. Initially, I was going to stop, but I just ended up going back and going a little bit deeper than I should have. But it all worked out. So here I am. I've got the mortise. The bowl itself is actually made. So here I am just trying to size up everything to a good size so that it'll all fit together the way it needs to. So that mortise, we flipped it over. So now we have to make another mortise. So once I sized it up to the part that I was actually going to go onto the bowl. So now I went really, really shallow because there wasn't a whole lot of material to work with. Like I said in the beginning, I could have gotten a little bit more, I could have gone a little shallower on that mortise. So now we are just flipping it over, tightening that down, and now we are going to form the lid portion of it. And I didn't get to do like a really cool dome with it. It was more flat than I wanted it to be. And here I am just taking down the material, and then I'm coming back with the flat carbide tool and get everything just nice and flat. But the bad part was there just wasn't a lot of material to work with, but I salvaged just enough of it to be noticeable. And then I just took the tailstock off, and now we're just rounding it all down. But overall, pretty happy that this worked out as well as it did. But again, you can see those cool purple shavings, and of course I saved those, and this is what it looks like before we started the actual sanding part of it. Save those shavings, and we're going to come back and do another project with these a little bit later in the year. But overall, really happy how this turned out so far. And then we get to my favorite part, which is the sanding. We went from 50 to 80 to 120 up to 180. But I spent a lot of time sanding on this one because with Purple Heart, you really want to do a lot of good sanding so you get that grain of the wood once you start to polish it. Looks really, really good. So then we just came back, started sanding the lid as well. And this part, it really didn't take much time. The great thing about working with smaller pieces of wood like this is that it does not take a lot of time to sand, but still, you got to do it. So, of course, came back, hit it with the Yorkshire grit. Love this stuff, and you can really see the wood grain just kind of pop on this. Looks really, really good. I was really happy how this turned out. And then we're going to do the same thing with the lid, just polishing this up and then give it a good spin. And then it'll look really, really cool like the thumbnail shows. But overall, this project went really well. I was really happy how it turned out. We're going to come back and hit that mystery wood that we did in the previous week's project. So there's going to be probably this next week. I think I'm going to do an epoxy project maybe. But this week's project turned out really well. And then we're just going to finish it up with some Shellawax and just really make it shine. but this project went really well. I think for the rest of the year, we are going to do lids on everything, so don't be too surprised if all the projects start having lids on them. That's just going to be my theme for, I think, 2024. Like I've said a couple of times, just trying to up my game in the woodworking, field. Just upping my skills, essentially. So we're going to put a small light bright peg in the middle, and that is going to be our little attachment point. And I ended up going through the actual top of it itself, but overall I was really happy how this turned out. I think it looks really, really good. You can just see that wood and that grain, and I think just the clear peg was the best choice for it, but looks absolutely beautiful. I love how this turned out. Love working with Purple Heart. I can't wait to do this again. It's going to be even better the next time that we do it, but something different, something better, adding to the skills, making lids, learning from our previous mistakes. But you can see the grain in that wood. Looks great. Love how this looks. And hope you guys liked it as much as I did, and I will catch you in the next one. So hope everybody's doing well out there, and I'll catch you in next week's video. And thanks for everybody and all the suggestions from last week, and everybody wishing me well. And I'll see you in the next one. All right? So, peace. All right, so project is done, and this little guy turned out really, really cool. So I'm obviously doing more projects with lids this year. I know we're only in February, but not too bad. Like I said, probably in the commentary, I want to get bigger blanks, but this one turned out really, really cool. You can see how this wood, and this is my favorite part. So listen. That's Purple Heart. So Purple Heart gives me a lot of issues because it's a very hard wood, and you can definitely feel it on the chisels. But surprisingly, this came out really, really well. If you guys saw last week's project, it was just something small, but this one is a little bit more intricate. I really like this. Doing the tops, definitely upgrading or improving my skills as a woodworker or wood turner. We're probably going to do a variant of these projects, probably for the rest of the year. But man, this one looks really cool. I love this wood. This is gorgeous, gorgeous wood. And like I said in the commentary, I appreciate everybody last week trying to tell me what that mystery wood was. And I still have it, and we're going to do something with that probably later. But this one, really, really small, but really, really cool looking project. And I love that sound. But anyway, hope you guys liked it. Hope you got something out of it. But anyway, it is February 3rd. It is 5 o'clock. You guys are literally watching this tomorrow, so hopefully I get this edited. I probably will. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, peace.